Hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Casey Harriet, and today we're going to be diving into the topic that is near and dear to hunters' hearts across Oklahoma, and that is deer hunting. Whether you're a seasoned pro or looking to get started, we understand the journey into deer hunting can be quite intimidating. Getting started in deer hunting can seem like a challenge. There's gear to buy, skills to learn, and a whole new language to speak. So how do you go from being curious about deer hunting to actually hitting the woods with confidence? The Department of Wildlife Conservation has teamed up with National Deer Association to bring you a special series of Deer Hunting 101 videos. These videos are cram-packed with expert advice, tips, and guidance to help you better understand deer hunting and to get you out in the field safely and responsibly.
The whitetail deer is one of the most recognizable and revered wild animals in North America. Few animals capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations like the whitetail, or Virginia deer as it was first called. It is a beautiful, graceful, and cunning, and a source of lean, delicious venison for millions of people each year. The whitetail is one of 6 members of the deer family in North America. The others include mule deer, black-tailed deer, elk, moose, and caribou. For those of you that live in the eastern half of the United States, the whitetail is by far the most common deer species you'll encounter. The whitetail is the most numerous and widely distributed big game animal in the world, ranging from central Canada and parts of Alaska down through the United States, Mexico, Central America, and even northern South America. There are nearly 30 million whitetails in the United States alone, which is likely more than when Christopher Columbus set foot on this continent. They can live in mountains, prairies, forests, deserts, and even jungles. And of course, they can also live in our backyards. This is due to their ability to adapt to humans and their incredible number of foods that they can eat. Literally hundreds of species. Deer are primarily browsers, meaning they concentrate on weeds, shrubs, acorns, and berries, far more than grazers, which eat primarily grasses. The whitetail is named for its large, fluffy white tail that they wave or flag as they run from danger. This is in stark contrast to their brownish-gray winter coats, which blends nicely into the fall landscape. This coat is replaced during the spring with a more reddish-colored version that helps them stay cooler during the warm summer months. A typical herd of whitetails contains bucks, does, and fawns. Bucks are males of 1 year of age or older, does are females 1 year of age or older, and fawns are both males and females under 1 year of age. Fawns can be further classified as buck fawns and doe fawns. While the lifespan of a whitetail is typically less than 4 years in the wild, some have been known to survive into their late teens and even early 20s. The oldest known whitetail lived 24 years in captivity. A typical whitetail family group is made up of related females, mothers, daughters, granddaughters, and their offspring, both males and females under 1.5 years of age. In time, the young bucks will be kicked out of the family group and forced to move to a new area to live. This process is called dispersal and is simply nature's way of ensuring that males and females from the same family don't interbreed. The area in which a deer lives is known as its home range. While it varies considerably, a buck's home range is typically around 750 to 1,000 acres, whereas a doe's is roughly half of this. Unlike some species of deer that form large herds containing both bucks and does, white-tailed bucks and does lead largely separate lives, except during the breeding season. During the late winter, bucks often form bachelor groups, which are simply groups of bucks of similar age or rank. These groups stay together throughout the spring and summer, but they break up before the breeding season or rut, which typically occurs in November throughout much of the whitetail's range. However, the timing of the rut can be highly variable in the southern United States. Male whitetails grow antlers, whereas females do not. During a buck fawn's first year of life, it grows only small nubs or buttons. That's why these youngsters are called nubbin or button bucks. During a buck's second and subsequent years of life, they grow larger antlers each year, at least through 6.5 or 7.5 years of age. The weight of a buck can vary considerably based on where it lives, what it eats, and its age, but they average around 170 to 200 pounds, though a few have weighed in at more than 375 pounds. Does weigh considerably less, with most weighing around 80 to 100 pounds at maturity. Whitetails are very good mothers. The first time a doe gives birth, approximately 195 to 200 days after breeding the previous fall, it will be to a single fawn. From that point forward, they typically give birth to twins every year. Triplets are rare, but they do occur, especially in areas with exceptional habitat quality. Whitetails have a unique fawn survival strategy during the first month of life. Instead of trying to keep up with its mother, fawns hide by lying motionless for days on end, only getting up to nurse or to be moved to a new hiding spot by its mother. This lasts for nearly a month before the fawn is large enough and strong enough to keep up with its mother. And as you can imagine, fawns are very vulnerable during this period, and many are taken by predators such as coyotes and bears. While whitetails don't have a complex language like humans do, they do communicate with each other more often than many realize. They use more than a dozen calls to communicate everything from danger to aggression to attraction. The most common vocalizations are grunts and snorts. And hunters often use calls that mimic these sounds while hunting. Whitetails also use behavior and body language to communicate. Aggressive behaviors like raising their heads high above another deer, lying their ears back, or walking away sideways stiff-legged are clear signs of aggression. If the warning is not heeded, more aggressive behaviors are likely to follow, including flailing or kickboxing among does. Bucks will often make all their hair stand up on end, making themselves look darker and more menacing, which may ultimately be followed by a fight involving the clashing of antlers and violent pushing and shoving until one of the bucks gives up. Well, that's a quick overview of the basic biology and behavior of the white-tailed deer. But there's so much more you can learn by visiting the NDA at deerassociation.com.
Many people new to deer hunting are surprised to learn that deer regularly communicate with each other, though in very different ways than humans. We communicate primarily through speech, whereas deer communicate mostly through senses, behaviors, and body language. While deer have the same 5 senses as humans, their senses of smell, vision, and hearing are the most important from a hunting perspective. Perhaps their greatest sense is that of smell, which is much more highly developed than ours. This allows them to detect predators, food, and other deer at great distances. This is also why deer hunters go to such great lengths to be as scent-free as possible while hunting, and also why they constantly check wind direction. Bottom line, beating a whitetail's nose is one of the most important aspects of being a successful deer hunter. A deer's sense of vision also is very different than ours. First, as a prey species, their eyes are positioned on the side of their head versus in the front as in humans. This gives them a much wider field of view, but limits their visual acuity or their ability to see fine detail. In this wide field of view and their unique ability to process visual images much faster than humans makes them masters at detecting movement from nearly any direction. So, paying close attention to when and how you move is another vital aspect of deer hunting. Second, deer have a reflective layer in the back of their eyes, which causes them to shine at night. This shiny reflective layer allows them to use light twice, which allows them to see much better in low light conditions. Deer are not colorblind as once believed. They do see colors differently than humans. We have 3 cell types in our eyes that allow us to see in the short, medium, and long wavelength colors. These are the colors that we call blues, greens, and reds. Deer only have 2 of these cell types, the short and the medium. So they are missing the cell type in their eye that allows them to differentiate the long wavelength colors, which includes reds and oranges. So that's why deer hunters can wear blaze orange clothing and not spook the deer. They simply don't have the ability to differentiate orange from green. Surprisingly, a deer's sense of hearing is not that much different than ours. They can hear about the same range of sounds, but they can hear slightly better in the higher frequencies. The big difference is that deer have large, cupped ears that they can rotate. This is not unlike us cupping our hands around our ears in an effort to hear better or determine the direction of a sound. Deer are very good at this, as they are at recognizing sounds that aren't normal in their world. So, if you can fool a deer's nose, limit your movements, and eliminate unnatural sounds, you'll be well on your way to becoming a successful deer hunter. Deer also communicate through scents produced on certain glands in their body. Today, researchers have identified 7 glands on whitetails, including 3 on the head, 3 on the legs, and 1 halfway in between on male deer only. The 3 on the head include the nasal gland, just below the nose, the preorbital gland, just below the eyes, and the forehead gland. And while we don't know much about the role of the nasal and preorbital gland, we know that the forehead gland is definitely important, especially in older bucks. This glandular region on the deer's forehead produces a unique scent that bucks rub on trees and other deer sniff when they come in close contact with each other. We believe the scent contains information on the gender, breeding condition, and even dominance status. The 3 glands on the legs include the interdigital, the tarsal, and the metatarsal. Of these, the interdigital and the tarsal are thought to be the most important. The interdigital is located between the digits or the toes on all 4 feet, and it produces a scent that smells like rancid butter. Each time a deer walks, it deposits some of that scent, and this is how other deer and predators such as coyotes can tell which way a deer is walking. The tarsal gland is considered the most important gland of all because it contains the most comprehensive information about the animal. In essence, it's a deer's driver's license or social security card. Why? Well, because deer urinate on this gland, which acts like a sponge to hold the urine. And over time, this urine begins to break down from bacterial decomposition, creating a uniquely personal odor profile. All deer urinate on this gland, including does and fawns, and this is why other deer sniff the tarsal gland when they first encounter each other. So, aren't you glad that we're a visual species? The last gland is only found on male deer, and you can probably guess where. Since researchers don't know its purpose, we can discuss that one another day. Well, there you go. That's a brief overview of the senses and glands of the whitetail. The more you learn about deer biology and behavior, the more enjoyment you'll derive from hunting and the more successful you'll be. For more information on deer senses and glands and everything whitetail, visit deerassociation.com. Harvesting deer based on age is becoming an increasingly common and fun management strategy. To implement this practice, hunters must have the ability to accurately age bucks on the hoof based on their body characteristics, an ability that most hunters considered impossible a decade ago. Today, however, hunters across the whitetails range are estimating the age of bucks in the field as a means to enhance their hunting experiences or merely for the fun of it. Like humans, whitetails possess distinct body characteristics by age class, and with a little practice, you can become proficient at estimating the age of bucks on the hoof. The breeding season is the best time of year to age bucks because of pronounced neck swelling and tarsal staining. You can estimate their age at other times of the year, but many characteristics are viewed relative to what they will or did look like during the rut. Fawns. Fawns are easily distinguished from other age classes of bucks, but are commonly misidentified as does. Fawns have small, square bodies, small, short heads, and relatively large ears. Does have rectangular bodies and larger heads. Buck fawns' heads are flatter between the ears rather than rounded like that of an adult doe or doe fawn. And fawns also have short necks, flatter bellies and backs, and less muscle definition than adult does. With a little practice, all hunters can quickly learn to separate bucks into 3 main age classes. Young bucks, those that are 1.5 to 2.5 years old, middle-aged bucks, those that are 3.5 to 4.5 years old, and mature bucks, those that are 5.5 plus years old. So, 1.5 years. For most hunters, learning to identify yearling bucks is the most important aging skill. Yearling bucks have long legs, a thin neck, a slim body, and an overall lanky appearance. Their legs appear too long for their bodies, and their antler spread is nearly always less than the width of their ears when their ears are in an alert position. They have a thin waist, and they may have slight tarsal staining in their tarsal glands during the rut. Overall, a yearling buck looks like a doe with antlers. 2.5 years. 2.5-year-olds have legs that still appear too long for their bodies, and they still have an overall sleek appearance. They have developed some muscling in their shoulders and slight swelling in their neck during the rut, but their waist is still thin. Given adequate nutrition, their antler spread can be equal to or wider than their ears. And finally, they can have moderate staining in their tarsal glands during the rut, especially if few mature bucks are in the population. 3.5 years. 3-year-olds have legs that appear to be the right length for their bodies because their torsos are now more fully developed. They have muscled shoulders and highly swelled neck during the rut, but their waist is still lean. And I liken 3-year-olds to middle linebackers, as they are big and strong, but they're also lean and fast. A deep chest and lean waist give them this racehorse appearance. Their antler spread can be even with or wider than their ears. The research shows that at this age, most bucks have achieved 50 to 75% of their antler growth potential. They also have a lot of tarsal staining during the rut. 4.5 years. Because their stomachs, chests, and necks are now fully developed, most 4-year-olds have legs that appear too short for their body. They have fully muscled shoulders, heavy swelling in the neck during the rut, and their waist has now dropped down to become even with their chest. Given adequate nutrition, they'll become structurally mature and can reach 75 to 90% of their antler growth potential. They also have a lot of tarsal staining, and during the rut, the stain may extend below the tarsal gland. 4-year-olds have an entirely different appearance than 1 to 3-year-old bucks. 5.5 to 7.5 years. Other than in select places, few free-ranging bucks exceed 5 years of age, so I'm going to combine 5 to 7-year-olds. Bucks in this category have legs that appear too short for their body. They also have several other characteristics of 4-year-olds, including fully muscled shoulders, heavy swelling in their necks during the rut, and a waist that's even with their chest. However, they also may have a pot belly and a sagging back. Their increased body mass gives them a more rounded appearance, and they may even look like a small cow. They will have achieved 90 to 100% of their antler growth potential, and they can have highly stained tarsal glands during the rut, with the stain extending well below the tarsal gland. 8.5 and older. A few free-ranging bucks make it to this advanced age category. These bucks have passed their prime and they regress in both body and antler size. They generally will have loose skin on their face, their neck, and their shoulders, and usually visible as a chin flap. And they may have pointed shoulders and hip bones. Their antlers can show age-related abnormalities such as abnormal points or wavy or curly tines, and they have an overall weathered appearance. As you study these age-specific body characteristics, you'll notice there aren't age-specific antler characteristics. Therefore, I suggest you don't rely solely on antler size when aging bucks. Large antlers on a younger deer or small antlers on an older deer can negatively influence your age estimate. I prefer to estimate age based solely on body characteristics with respect to location and time of year, and then use antler size to check my estimate or to break a tie if I can't decide between two classes. Aging bucks on the hoof is a lot of fun, so whether you hunt them with a bow, a sporting arm, or a camera, this information can make you a more knowledgeable whitetail enthusiast. For more information on aging live deer, visit the National Deer Association's website at deerassociation.com.
You know, it can be pretty overwhelming for a new hunter to learn and understand all the potential rules involved with deer hunting. When and when not to hunt, how many and which deer to take, legal weapons, licenses, tags, and more. But just like learning anything new, with a little homework and studying on the front end, it soon will become routine. Regulations and seasons vary from state to state. In this video, I'll cover a few of the most common regulations you should expect to encounter wherever you hunt deer, and steps you should take to learn more specifically about your state's regulations. A hunter education and safety course is required in many states as the first step to becoming certified to hunt deer, and will give you a head start on learning the local regulations. These are either available online or in person. And upon completion, you'll receive a hunter education card, which allows you to purchase a license in the states that have mandatory hunter education requirements. Visit your state agency's website to find out about the when and where these courses are available. Wildlife agencies are also responsible for the publication of rules and regulations regarding the taking of wildlife. These publications are typically in print and electronic form. Most outdoor retailers have print materials on hand, and digital versions are easily accessible online. Be aware, however, that game laws are subject to change yearly. Be certain to research game laws yourself, and don't solely rely on friends or family for accurate information. It's our responsibility to know the rules, because they're designed for our safety and for the conservation of wildlife that we all want to enjoy. Deer hunting regulations are enforced by wildlife conservation officers, also known historically as game wardens. As the authorities on wildlife laws, they are the go-to resource for deciphering complex rules. Let's discuss some of the more common rules you should expect to encounter, no matter where you hunt. The most basic and universal requirement is possession of the correct hunting license and tags or permits. To purchase a license, you'll need a form of identification and possibly your hunter education card number. The tags are for the species and number of animals you're hunting. Pricing and availability may vary depending on where you reside. If you qualify as a resident hunter, licenses may not only be less expensive, but additional permits may also be available. As a non-resident, additional requirements may apply. It's required to carry your hunting license and tags at all times while hunting. This allows easy identification for a wildlife officer in compliance with tagging requirements. The number and sex of deer you can harvest is often called the bag limit, is specific to the location in which you will be hunting. Upon killing a deer, it's fairly common to be required to invalidate your tag by placing it around the leg or antler of the animal. Other hunting locales may require the permit to be notched or dated on the date of harvest. Checking in a deer means to notify the agency that you in fact harvested an animal. Some agencies require the deer to be physically taken to a check station, while others allow validation via phone or internet. In states where neither is required, hunters are randomly selected to provide information post-season. Archery, primitive weapons like muzzleloaders, and modern firearms are considered separate methods for taking deer. The size of a public hunt area or proximity to a community may raise safety concerns if rifles or shotguns are used, so archery or primitive weapons may be required. Fluorescent or hunter orange is a requirement for nearly all firearm deer seasons as a safety precaution. To ensure safety and proper identification of the target, hunters are restricted to only harvesting animals within daylight hours. Some areas allow that from 1/2 hour before sunrise to 1/2 hour after sunset, while others restrict harvest from sunrise to sunset. Because daylight length changes daily, legal hunting hours also change daily. In an effort to reduce the spread of wildlife diseases, many agencies have begun to regulate the movement of deer and deer parts. You may be required to debone or quarter your harvest before transporting across certain geographic boundaries. This allows you to enjoy the meat while restricting movement of high-risk, non-edible parts like the brain, eyes, and spleen that may aid in spreading disease. Study the local requirements well in advance of actually going hunting so that you can be sure to be in compliance and knowledgeable of all regulations when you go. The decision to shoot or not shoot an animal should be made long before you squeeze the trigger or release an arrow. Understanding the laws will help guide you in what you are permitted to harvest, but that doesn't always align with your personal goals. The father of wildlife management, Alva Leopold, wrote, quote, "Ethical behavior is doing the right thing when no one else is watching, even when doing the wrong thing is legal," end quote. A good ethical guide to assist you is NDA's official code of conduct. By following these principles, you'll be better equipped to make those kinds of decisions. When it comes to hunting laws and regulations, most new hunters rely on family and friends for guidance. When that is not an option, organizations like the NDA are a tremendous resource for steering you in the right direction. Anytime you have a question or concern on your new journey to becoming a deer hunter, please reach out to us at deerassociation.com. We're here for you.
To learn more, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, or head over to www.deerassociation.com.
Hopefully you found today's topics informative, and with any luck, you're a bit more inspired to get out in the woods. On next week's episode of Outdoor Oklahoma, we will continue with our Deer Hunting 101 series, so make sure you tune in. For Outdoor Oklahoma, I'm Casey Harriet, and we'll see you next time somewhere new in Outdoor Oklahoma.
Outdoor Oklahoma is produced by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation and is proud to serve and be funded entirely by sportsmen and women and outdoor enthusiasts who love and appreciate all things wild in the great state of Oklahoma.